Welcome to Take Two, a discussion of the times and current events. I'm joined as always by Adam Matlack and Mike Pomerantz. Today, I'd like to get your take on the allegations of U.S. senators insider trading off the coronavirus briefings.
Okay, so the breakdown's pretty simple. If you don't already know it, sometime in January, I don't know the dates exactly, it was like January 26th, a couple senators, they go into a meeting, they come out, and they've been briefed on Corona and the whole situation, and about 5 that we know of right now have sold off millions of dollars worth of stock, same day, next day, right on top of it. This tells me something really, really interesting. A, they had quite a bit of information, right? That's the first one, that the internals of government started to know that this could be very bad. But B is the question at its heart here is you need to ask yourself, is insider trading wrong? So we step back and we sit there and say, okay, do I have a problem with insider trading? Under normal circumstances, I don't. I don't care. It's not an issue that's I take, whatever you want to call it, issue with. It's just not something I have a problem with. But where we're at is that you sit there and say, okay, I'm a senator. I can sell my stake in this by having full knowledge, right? So that's what insider trading is. I make a trade because I have full knowledge of the situation, and in normal circumstances, I'm fine with it. But they have this ability to not be charged with insider trading, and moreover, they're above it. They're above this situation, and it's currently illegal to be and to engage in insider trading. And so, because of where we're at, this is incredibly wrong, and it shows you the separation of just how important power is, and this idea that money begets power. It can, but man alive, is power so much more valuable than money, and nothing is more obvious nowadays than this kind of example. Here we are in this modern world where every single senator has a position in the stock market. I don't think there's a single one. They're all sitting up there panicking. Part of the reason why the stimulus is rocking so much is because they're all rich and because they're all churning money out to this thing, and they don't care. They don't care if it finds its way back to the market or not. That's what they need. That's what they have to have. And in reality, they'll do anything to inflate and make sure that their stock positions hold. So that's just where we are. And yeah,
it's an amazing turn of events, and I've seen both parties, Democratic and Republican, try to make a play with the information of what happened, and make a gotcha moment out of it. And I will say that your statement about how whether it's really a function of power. I mean, this has got to be a gray area a little bit. And my initial reaction to seeing the news was, oh man, I want to get these fuckers. Like, they should go down. They should all go down. Feinstein should go down. They should all go down. But then I was like, you know what? It's really quaint. It's really cute that I think that. And the fact that it's happening Democratic and Republican, and what you said about having everybody in the stock market and they're all being rich, there is a part of me that feels like this is an unveiling. This is not profiteering. This is not unusual business. This is business as usual. I am certain of it. And the funniest thing is that I'm the guy who wants to give the government all the money. I'm the guy who wants to give the power of regulation, of intervention, and this is not. And I mean, again, I was outraged initially, and I thought, God, this has been going on forever. They do this every time. They do that all the time. And one thing I think is a little bit worrisome. Again, it's good that the blanket is being pulled back and you can see what's going on. I might disagree when we talk about normal market actors and whether there should be regulation to intervene on them using their insider trading. That's an interesting discussion. But the power and the depth of knowledge and detail and the timing of that knowledge that members of the government have is really a different ballgame. So what I would say is, I definitely think it's wrong. I wish they weren't doing it. I also would like to know what's happening in the executive branch, because their knowledge is just the same. And the executive branch, like anybody who works in the White House, is probably making moves, including the president, including his family. Should they be allowed to do that? So I'm not getting into a hissy about this from the standpoint of Burr should resign or Feinstein should resign. Feinstein should resign because she's like kind of old, but I'm not going to get into a tizzy about any of them resigning. What I want is the bigger message that this is business as usual. This is what goes on all the time. This is the era in which we live, and if we want it to be different, then yeah, maybe you do have to put somebody in an orange jumpsuit and lead them in front of the cameras and say, that dude who's going to be in jail for the next 5 years used to be a U.S. senator, and then maybe that will affect some change. But to be shocked and appalled and clutching my pearls, I don't know. I think this is kind of like, this is probably what they've been doing all along. Not that I ever knew about it or really thought about it, but now that I'm thinking about it, now that it's dragged in front of us, I feel like, well, duh, of course.
Well, Burr goes the money printer, right? And that's this meme floating around as we go, and they are just printing at unprecedented rates here, and it just doesn't matter in terms of whatever they need to do to buoy this is what they want to do. I mean, we've had CEOs of a bunch of prominent companies be stepping down over the last couple of months, and you'll see an increase of this. Is like as the top came in, people were like, oh, I'm kind of this is kind of a top. This feels like a top, and it was. And here we are. 30 days later, all of the gains over the last 4 years have been erased, and we're actually negative from that. Most people aren't used to that. Most people who are living off cap gains and aren't providing services or values or products, they need those gains to happen to make and sustain their lifestyle. And the senators are no different. They're just as exposed as these other people. And so the system is broken in so many ways, and it's one of the reasons why we should just open it up, is that, in my opinion, most of these cases, government is allowing and pushing and even creating vacuums that allow all this to happen. And so here we stand, this big question, oh, well, what should happen to these people? My answer is nothing. And I don't even think it should be new rules. I think they should just remove the insider trading rules. And it should be a system where it's buyer beware for sure, and it's seller beware as well. Everybody needs to be taking a do your own research approach and not just being like, well, we need to be protected. No one's protecting you. They're only protecting themselves. That's ultimately what's going on, is that the idea is that these people were put in power to protect us, and that's the lie that everyone's bought, apparently. And really what's happening is those 5 people, they left that meeting, and most of them were like, ooh, I know what I need to do. And you talk about clutching pearls. They're the ones clutching the pearls. They're the ones sitting there being like, ooh, I'm not going to lose this. I'm not going to hurt like everybody else.
Yeah, well, they had reason to be, even if they couldn't picture us all stuck in our houses. They got the message. Let me challenge you a little bit on the sort of Hunger Games, Mad Max, Thunderdome approach. I want to incentivize public service in a different way, because once you get elected, you do have the public trust. And if you, and this is different from the private question of whether or not insider trading in a private area should be allowed. I might even be able to go a little bit with you on that. But when you talk about public servants, like, in a way, if you could make a plan for generational wealth by working your way up through the political system. And on the one hand, that would incentivize more involvement in public service. But with the ambition to move up and up and up the ladder so that you can become a senator But when you become a senator, is the purpose, and I'm not asking about the real purpose. I'm asking you, like, is the desired purpose, is the ideal that they would be there to enrich themselves or to serve the public? Because if they are there with the primary purpose of enriching themselves, then they don't need to be there. I mean, you just shut it down. You don't need a Senate. If that is the purpose that drives people into the Senate. Now, I think that that's the purpose now, but it's like this fucking thing we're in with terms of service. Terms of service allowed your privacy to be sold down the river. The whole point, the way it worked, is they didn't tell you. So when you have people in politics who say, I'm here for the people, they're not telling you, I'm actually here to get really stinking rich, generational wealth for me. So, I mean, if public service is not about getting rich, but about doing something for the people that elected you, then I think the model that you suggest may not work.
I'm going to jump in just real quick because I think this is a key. How do we fix it? How do we change it? How do we make it to where, okay, these guys should be here and these guys should be this, and we should separate the public sector between the private sector and all these things? The inherent issue here is power. Power is the problem. People are talking about people. And it's like, oh, if we just had better senators, if we just had a better president. The answer to this is not to find magical beanstalk carrying people who know and are forever not flawed, unlike the rest of us magically are. The answer is to remove their abuse ability, take away their power, and put them in a position where they really can only do things that are absolutely necessary and change that. And so from my position is when you have to acknowledge that power is the real problem here and not expansion of it, but it's decrease of it is the only way to remove this abuse.
All right.
I got to give him a chance to. I got to give him a chance to respond.
Okay. The only I actually, my response is not to continue the back and forth, but I would say that you've got recognition of the gray area in that statement. In other words, my knee-jerk reaction to what you're saying is that's the same as removing the Senate. In other words, what are you going to do? You're not going to tell them? You're not going to tell them bad times are coming? You might have to pass legislation. We'll just keep them in the dark, because if we don't do that, they're going to sell their stock and they're going to rip everybody off. They're going to violate the public trust. So we don't trust them anymore, so we don't give them the information. So my knee-jerk reaction to that would be, well, if you're not giving them the information, then they're not serving any purpose there. I think what you're suggesting is if we are courageous enough to maybe think outside the box, there could be a place in between where they serve a purpose, where they can legislate, where they can act on behalf of the people that voted for them, but where they, not by regulation, which is, I guess, see, I don't know. Did they do anything wrong? I don't know what. I'm a former lawyer. What law did they violate? I haven't seen anything on Twitter all morning that says, "Oh, here's the statute." So I'm kind of like, I'm not sure how what you're saying would work, but I would just end by saying that I like the possibility that there's another way to do it. In other words, not just throwing out the Senate, but maybe having them do business a different way, which would, give credence to that power dynamic where they're flawed people. They're going to take advantage, and we've got to create a structure, not of regulation, but of less power, so that they can still have authority, but they can't screw us all over.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, gentlemen, thank you both for your thoughts. If you guys enjoyed today's topic or in our video, please be sure to like and subscribe below, and join us for the next edition of Take Two.